My name is Evelyn Grace. I'm 60 years old and I will tell you about the moment my own daughter leaned close to me on my deathbed and whispered, "Hurry up and leave us." I know those words sound cruel and unbearable even. A daughter is supposed to hold her mother's hand with love, not push her toward the grave. But what if I told you there are secrets buried in my life, truths hidden behind decades of silence? That made her say those words. I have carried wounds you cannot see, betrayals no one dared speak of, and shame that rotted inside me like poison. My life was not just about survival, it was about enduring a storm of lies, abuse, and choices that shattered the very family I once tried to protect. Now, as my story unravels, you will discover why my daughter spoke those words, and why, in that moment, I almost believed she was right. If you wish to hear more of my stories, please subscribe to my channel. I remember the hospital room that night. The air smelled of bleach and despair, the kind of smell that clings to your lungs and reminds you that hope is a fragile thing. Machines hummed around me, their beeping like a countdown I couldn't escape. I was weak, fragile, and yet my mind was alive, haunted by memories I had tried to bury. Emily, my daughter, stood by the window, arms crossed. She was 35 now, beautiful in her own way, but with eyes that carried a storm I had never been able to calm. She didn't look at me with pity. No, her gaze was sharp, almost resentful. I wanted to reach out to her, but my hand trembled, weak from the needle taped against my skin. "Emily," I whispered, my voice cracked like old wood. She turned slowly, her lips tight, her eyes unreadable. She didn't rush to me, didn't hold my hand. Instead, she walked closer with deliberate steps, like every inch of space between us was filled with the weight of unspoken words. "You think dying will wash away everything, Mother?" she asked softly, but the venom beneath her voice was unmistakable. Her words cut deeper than any sickness in my body. For decades, I had lived with guilt, things I never confessed, choices I never explained. And now, as death loomed, I feared the truth might die with me. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. "Emily, there are things you don't know, things I never told you." She let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, I know more than you think." And in that moment, I saw something in her eyes, knowledge, secrets, the kind that should have been mine to reveal. My heart pounded. If she already knew, then who had told her? I tried to speak again, but the room seemed to shrink, the beeping louder, my chest heavier. I reached for her, desperate, but before I could form the words, she leaned closer to my ear. Her whisper was cold, chilling me to the bone. "Hurry up and leave us." I gasped, my mind spinning. Why would my daughter, my own flesh and blood, wish me gone? And worse, what did she already know about the sins I thought I had buried forever? The night after Emily whispered those words, I could not sleep. The beeping machines mocked me, and the shadows on the hospital walls twisted into shapes of people long gone. My body was weak, but my mind was alive with a storm of memories I had locked away for decades. I thought about the first time I held Emily in my arms. She was so small, so fragile, wrapped in a pink blanket that smelled of lavender. I whispered promises into her tiny ears that I would always protect her, always shield her from pain. But life has a cruel way of making liars out of us. My husband, Michael Grace, was once a man of charm and strength. To the outside world, he was a respected businessman, admired and envied. But behind closed doors, he was a different man. His love was a weapon, his anger a storm. I endured it in silence, believing it was my duty as a wife, believing I was keeping my family together. But secrets are never truly buried. And mine began with a man named Daniel Carter. Daniel was nothing like Michael. He was gentle, kind, a friend from my youth who saw the bruises behind my smile. When Michael's cruelty became too much to bear, Daniel was the one who offered me comfort. He gave me something I hadn't felt in years: safety. And in one reckless night, I gave him something in return. Months later, Emily was born. I told myself she was Michael's. I convinced myself. I prayed she was. But every time I looked into her eyes, I saw Daniel's softness, his gentleness. And I knew, though I never said it aloud, there was a chance Michael was not her real father. For 35 years, I kept that truth buried. For 35 years, I smiled, cooked dinners, hosted holidays, and pretended everything was normal. Michael never suspected, or maybe he did, but he never spoke of it. His pride wouldn't allow it. But now, standing at my hospital bedside, Emily's cold whisper told me she already knew. The next morning, I gathered my strength and asked the nurse to let Emily's husband, David, visit me. He was a man of quiet presence, always polite but observant. When he entered the room, he carried himself like someone who already knew too much. David, I rasped, my voice barely above a whisper. What does Emily know? He hesitated, his jaw tightening. He pulled a chair close to my bed, lowering his voice. She knows enough to hate you, Evelyn. My chest ached not from illness, but from his words. Please, tell me what she knows. David leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. She found the letters. The room seemed to spin. My vision blurred. Letters, yes. The ones Daniel wrote me all those years ago, hidden away in a box under the floorboard of my old dresser. Letters filled with words of love, of promises, of regret. How? My voice broke. She went looking for the truth, David said, his tone sharp but controlled. And she found it. She knows about Daniel. She knows Michael might not be her father. Tears stung my eyes. My secret, the one I had carried like a stone in my chest for decades, was no longer mine. She doesn't just know, Evelyn, David continued, his voice colder now. She feels betrayed. Her whole life, she lived under Michael's shadow, thinking she was his daughter. Now, she questions everything: her identity, her worth, her place in this family. And she blames you. I tried to speak, but my lips trembled. Words refused to come. David leaned closer, his expression unreadable. She's angry, but more than that, she's planning something. Something you might not live to see. A chill spread through my body. My heart pounded against the monitors. What do you mean? I whispered. David's eyes darkened. He lowered his voice, almost to a whisper. She told me. She wants to confront him. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Confront him? But Daniel has been gone for years, I said, my voice shaking. David's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. That's what you think. The room fell silent, except for the beeping of the machines, each one echoing like a countdown to the truth I had spent my life running from. The words "that's what you think" clung to me like a curse. I lay in that hospital bed, the beeping of the machines now louder, crueler, as though they mocked every lie I had ever told. For 35 years, I had convinced myself that Daniel was gone, dead to me, dead to the world. But David's tone, it was as if Daniel was still walking somewhere under the same sky. I tried to steady my breath. David, I whispered. What do you mean? Where is he? David leaned back in the chair, his arms folded, his eyes narrowing. Evelyn, this isn't about where he is. It's about what happens if Emily finds him. A tremor ran through me. I had buried the past for decades, not because I was strong, but because I was afraid. Afraid of Michael, afraid of the truth, afraid of destroying Emily's sense of family. And now the past was clawing its way out of the grave. I closed my eyes and drifted back to the last time I saw Daniel. It was a rainy night, the kind where the heavens seemed to cry with you. I told him we couldn't see each other again, that I had to stay with Michael, no matter how broken he made me. Daniel begged me, his hands trembling as he clutched mine. Run away with me, Evelyn, he had said. I'll protect you. I'll protect her. But fear ruled me. I let go of his hands, and I never saw him again, or so I thought. When I opened my eyes, David was still staring at me, studying me like a man who had already judged me guilty. Emily doesn't want just answers, he said slowly. She wants revenge. She feels cheated out of her life, and she's convinced that Daniel holds the key to it all. Revenge. My voice cracked. On me, on you, on Michael, on everything she thought was real. David replied. His voice softened then, almost pitying. She's spiraling. Evelyn, you don't know how deep her anger runs. Tears blurred my vision. She's my daughter. I choked. I only wanted to protect her. By lying to her? David's question cut sharper than a knife. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but my strength betrayed me. My chest heaved, my hand clutching the sheets. In silence, I prayed that somehow Emily's anger would cool, that she would see me not as a monster but as a mother who had made mistakes out of desperation. But later that night, I heard the sound of hushed voices outside my door. The hallway was dim, but the words carried through. Emily's voice low, furious. I don't care what she says. David, she lied to me my entire life. She let me believe I was Michael's daughter while the truth rotted in the dark. I need to know. I need to hear it from him. My blood turned cold. My daughter was speaking of Daniel as though he were still alive. David tried to calm her. Emily, listen to me. Digging into this will destroy you. It will destroy all of us. Her reply was sharp, laced with venom. It already has. The silence that followed was more terrifying than her words. And then her footsteps moved away, fading down the hall. I wanted to call out, to beg her to stay. But my voice was gone, my body weak, my heart pounding like a trapped bird. I turned my eyes to the ceiling, whispering into the empty room, Daniel, if you're still out there, God help us. The next morning, Emily returned to my room. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from sleeplessness, but her expression was hard as stone. She walked straight to my bed, pulled a chair close, and sat down. Mother, she said, her voice trembling but steady. I know the truth now. My breath caught. She leaned closer, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity I had never seen before. I know who my real father is. The monitor beside me beeped faster. My heart stuttered in my chest. How could she know? Unless Daniel himself had told her. Her words, I know who my real father is, struck me like thunder in my fragile chest. For years, I had lived in terror of this very moment, and now it had arrived, not as a question, but as a certainty. My lips trembled. Emily, what are you saying? Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. Don't pretend anymore, Mother. I found the letters. I read his words. You loved him, not Michael. And her voice cracked. I'm his daughter, aren't I? The room spun. My body shook under the weight of her truth. There it was, laid bare, undeniable. All the lies I had fed her, all the silences I had kept, shattered in one breath. I reached for her hand, but she pulled it away, disgusted. All my life, she continued, her voice sharp, I thought I knew who I was. I thought Michael was my father, cold, strict, unloving. Yes, but mine. And now I realize you built my whole life on a lie. Tears slid down my cheeks. I only wanted to protect you, Emily. Michael, he was cruel. If he ever suspected, he would have destroyed us both. I stayed silent because I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. Her laugh was bitter, broken. Safe? Do you think I was safe? Growing up in that house? Do you think his cruelty didn't scar me? And now, knowing he might not even be my father, it makes everything worse. It means every bruise, every word, every wound came from a man who didn't even have the right to call me his daughter. Her voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment, I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who used to hide behind me when Michael's rage erupted, the one I swore to protect. I should have told you, I whispered, choking on regret. I should have told you long ago. Emily shook her head. No, you should have been brave enough to leave him. You should have chosen me over your fear. Silence swallowed the room, thick and suffocating. My chest ached with every breath. She was right. I had failed her not once, but over and over. Then, as if the air itself shifted, the door opened. David stepped in, his face pale, his eyes dark with something I couldn't name. He looked from Emily to me, and for a moment, the weight of unspoken truths filled the space between us. Emily turned to him. "Tell her," she demanded, her voice trembling with fury. "Tell her what you found." David hesitated, his jaw tight. "Emily, tell her," she shouted, her body shaking now. David exhaled heavily, then looked straight at me. "Evelyn, Daniel is not as gone from our lives as you think." The words slammed into me like ice water. My chest tightened, the monitor beside me screaming with each erratic beat of my heart. Emily's eyes widened, her breath hitching. "You mean?" David nodded grimly. "He's alive." The world tilted. My vision blurred as I gripped the sheets with trembling hands. For decades, I had told myself Daniel was lost to me forever, that my silence was final, that the grave had swallowed my secret. But if he was alive, then everything was about to come crashing down. Emily's lips parted, a mixture of shock and fury twisting her face. "Then I will find him," she whispered. "And when I do, I'll know the truth he was brave enough to tell me, even if you weren't." Her words cut through me deeper than any knife. She rose from her chair, her back stiff, her fists clenched. Without another word, she stormed from the room, leaving me gasping, broken, and terrified. David stayed behind, his face heavy with unspoken truths. He leaned close, his voice low. "You need to prepare yourself, Evelyn, because this family's secrets they're about to explode. And once they do, nothing will ever be the same again." The beeping of the machines filled the silence as my world collapsed around me. For the first time in decades, I realized I was no longer the keeper of my secrets. They were alive, out there, waiting to destroy us all. The silence after Emily's departure felt heavier than any storm I had endured in my 60 years. Her words still echoed in my fragile chest. "I will find him." Daniel, the name I had not dared whisper for decades, now hung in the air like a ghost refusing to leave. I turned to David, my son, my last thread of strength. His eyes brimmed with pity, but also with anger. "You should have told us, Mother," he said softly, but his voice carried the sharpness of betrayal. "You let us grow up in his shadow without knowing the truth." Tears blurred my vision. "I thought I was protecting you," I whispered. "Michael, he was a dangerous man. If he had known about Daniel, he would have destroyed everything." David shook his head. "And in hiding the truth, you destroyed us anyway." His words cut deeper than Emily's, because they were true. For a long moment, the room filled only with the sound of the monitor beeping in rhythm with my faltering heart. Then David leaned closer, his tone low but urgent. "Mother, Emily already left to search for Daniel, and I know her. She won't stop until she finds him. If you don't tell her everything yourself, she will hear it from him, and then she will hate you forever." The terror in me twisted into resolve. My body was weak, but my voice trembled with determination. "Bring her back," I begged. "Please. She deserves to hear the truth from me." David hesitated, then nodded and left the room. Hours crawled by in suffocating silence until finally, the door opened again. Emily walked in, her face pale, her jaw set like stone. She did not sit this time. She stood at the foot of my bed, arms folded, as if building a wall between us. I gathered every ounce of strength left in me. "Emily," I whispered, "listen to me. You deserve to know who you are, and who I was." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't stop me. "I was 19 when I met Daniel," I began, my voice fragile. "He was gentle, kind, everything Michael was not. I loved him, Emily, truly loved him. But your grandparents arranged my marriage to Michael, believing his wealth would secure our future. I had no choice." Emily's breath caught, but she stayed silent, even after the wedding. "Daniel never stopped loving me. We wrote letters secret, stolen words of comfort. And then, you came. You were his, Emily. You were the only piece of joy I ever carried in a house filled with cruelty. I wanted to tell you every single day. But Michael, he was violent. He suspected once, and I saw what he was capable of. I swore to myself I would never put you in danger. So I lied. I kept you safe by burying the truth. Emily's face was unreadable, her lips trembling, but her eyes hard. I reached out, my voice cracking. I thought silence was love, but silence was my greatest sin. Finally, a single tear slid down her cheek. She quickly brushed it away, but I saw it, the crack in her armor. Why now? She asked bitterly. Why tell me now, when it's too late? Because, I whispered, clutching my chest as pain tightened it. The grave cannot carry my secrets. I cannot leave this world with you believing I chose lies over you. You were never Michael's. You were Daniel's. And mine. You were born of love. The words broke something inside her. Her arms dropped to her sides, her face crumbling as sobs tore from her throat. For the first time in years, she looked like my daughter again, not the hardened woman, but the little girl I had once held close. She rushed to my side, grabbing my hand with desperate strength. Why didn't you trust me? She cried. I didn't trust myself, I confessed, my tears falling freely now. But I trust you, Emily. I always have. We wept together, mother and daughter. The years of pain unraveling between us. David stepped quietly into the room, watching us with tear-filled eyes. For the first time, I saw hope flicker in his gaze. Emily pressed her forehead against mine, her voice shaking. I don't know if I can forgive you, mother, but I will try. For the love you gave me, and for the truth you finally spoke. Relief washed through me like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. My chest ached, but my heart felt lighter than it had in decades. I closed my eyes, whispering one final prayer of gratitude. That's all I ask, my child. Just try. The monitor beside me slowed, its beeps stretching farther apart. I felt her grip tighten as if she could hold me to this world. But I was ready now, ready to leave, not with the weight of secrets, but with the fragile hope of forgiveness. My last breath left me with her name on my lips, Emily, and then silence.